Welcome, friends, to the Bride of Christ, Bride of Messiah, if this is a Hebrew Radio Nation Radio. Uh, Looking forward to being with you this time on the book of Revelation, as we have shared from time to time information on various aspects of what I believe is um, essential to understand for the book of Daniel, and from the book of Daniel last week. And uh, we're doing Revelation, which is complementary. Many of the things in Revelation are an unfolding of previous books, especially the book of Daniel, because we see the beasts in Daniel also in Revelation, so to speak. The lion, the bear, the leopard, the dragon-like beast, the composite beast in Revelation 13. But this first half hour is going to be focused on the most overlooked event in the book of Revelation, and it's because that event is encoded in different ways. And let's ask God's blessing. Heavenly Father, this is an important topic today, and please give us your spirit to see things as you intend. We thank you for it, and we ask it in Yeshua's name, for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, right from the very first chapter of Revelation, there is an event that separates. John is told to write what you saw, write what is, and write what is to come. A watershed event, something huge. And what happened in the first chapter of Revelation is a type for our time. Okay, it was an earthquake. I'll just tell you that. And the earthquake is the overlooked event that is coming, and it's not just a 6 or a 7 or an 8 on the Richter. It will be bigger than that, I believe. Okay, the whole world will know. It's suggested in Amos 3:7 that God isn't going to do anything without revealing it. And the next verse says, "The lion has roared, who will not fear?" Well, the book of Revelation has a message of fear. Fear God, give glory to him, time of his judgment. And that earthquake will signal the time of judgment for the end time. So I just want you to understand that we can know it's coming, and I believe since God isn't going to do anything without revealing it, we can know when it's coming. The events that we've talked about before in the Bride of Christ is that God came as bridegroom to Egypt, and he took Israel to a covenant, and later said, "I'm married to you," as a result of that covenant. And that's also how they became his kingdom. Well, in Acts 1 verse 6, the disciples want to know, how do we get the kingdom? Are you going to restore the kingdom at this time? Christ said it's not for you to know the times and seasons, but Paul, the apostle, in 1 Thessalonians 5:1 says we know them perfectly. He says, "Brethren, you have no need that I write, for you know them perfectly, the day of the Lord." Well, day of the Lord is an extension of night of the Lord in Egypt. Egypt was when God came and took them to the covenant. Similar for us in day of the Lord, and similar significance because it was huge calamity that fell on Egypt, and I believe it will be a huge earthquake that hits this earth. And we've talked about it before. Brief summary that Muslims are going to take Jerusalem. The Lord will roar from Jerusalem. The heavens and earth will shake. The whole world will know this is a different time now, okay? And it's time of judgment, time of life and death issues for the last 7 years. And John saw, actually heard a great voice as of a trumpet. And verse 11, this is Revelation 1:11, says, "I am Alpha, Omega, first and last." Those words are the basis for a rule of first use. That where a word or phrase is first found in the Bible, it often has a meaning or context for the end time, because Christ is Alpha, Omega, and he's also the Word. Well, if you go to where the word trumpet is first found, and by the way, I played trumpet in high school, and I enjoyed that. To me, it was important, and this program started with a trumpet. Trumpets were used for signaling in the Bible times. And they moved according to trumpet. If they didn't move, then they were not with them. So anyway, the trumpet, though, if you go to where it's first found, it's in Exodus 19, and it's when God came down on the mountain at Sinai on Pentecost, and he made a covenant with Israel. He says, "If you keep my covenant, you'll be to me a kingdom." And it also says that trumpet waxed louder and louder, and the mountain shook. There was smoke and fire. People were afraid. Fear God, give glory to Him. Time of His judgment. It was a mini judgment day, confrontation with God and His law. And I believe that we're coming to a time when God is going to repeat with some, history doesn't repeat exactly, but it does rhyme, as some people said. And so the events, some of them will fit. We don't know exactly how, but study, see how the expectations are, that we will see an earthquake as a signal for a time of judgment. And we got into that with the wedding parable somewhat, but it was encoded as a trumpet. Well, I'm going to give you another example of how the earthquake is encoded. That I'm saying that earthquake that happened at that time, and by the way, I think it might be bad translation when John said, "I was in the spirit on the Lord's day." Well, day of the Lord, yes, it's the end time period, and I think that's what Revelation is about, seeing the end time period, day of the Lord, and it's not about Sunday as some evangelical Christians want to think or believe. Just for a long story short, it does say that the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath in the last verses of Mark 2. So if He's Lord of the Sabbath, that's His day. It's not about Sunday. Sunday isn't mentioned in the Bible, and it's only mentioned 8 times in the New Testament as the first day of the week. 6 of them have to do with the resurrection. So He came out of the grave on the first day of the week, but that doesn't mean to keep it holy. It's really not the other 2 mentions of first day in Acts. It mentions it once, but there are about half a dozen times that the Sabbath is mentioned in the book of Acts, and 3 of them are every Sabbath, every Sabbath, every Sabbath. So we can't make a case for the fact that they changed the Sabbath and they were keeping Sunday. Don't think so. Anyway, I didn't mean to digress from that. We want to look now at the message to the churches. When John was told, "Write what you saw and write what is," and to the message of the 7 churches, they were in existence at that time. And then write what is hereafter. After the 7 churches, it says, "Come up, I'll show you things to come." So that's what we're going to look at. But first of all, the last message to the last church of Laodicea, lukewarm, is really about Western Christianity today. Lukewarm with materialism. We like money. Well, God is going to deal with that. In Egypt He did. They worshipped the different gods. The Nile River was the source of their economy, and it turned to blood. And they worshipped cattle. Cattle got disease. They worshipped frogs. Frogs were everywhere. God is going to deal with our gods, and when money is gone, it will be seen what we really are like. Okay, so we're coming to that time, and that church ended in an earthquake. It doesn't show it clearly in Revelation, but it says, Revelation 3:20, "I stand at the door and knock." And that knock, that church ended in an earthquake. The knock is, I shared this with a professor of theology in Hebrew from Andrews University, and Richard Davidson, and he said that, might be right that it's an earthquake, but because the Hebrew word for knock includes a severe meaning. In Judges 19 or 20, they were knocking on the door, beating it down, really. So, and to him that knocketh, it will be opened. I believe that the churches have been closed, but when they see their churches destroyed because of an earthquake, maybe they'll get an understanding of better that we need to be open to more truth than just what we're hearing in church, because church is pretty tame and lame. It's leavened bread. Christ said, "Beware the leaven of the Pharisees." The religious teachers of today have leavened the bread. So the knock, He only knocks twice in the New Testament. In Luke 12:36, we're supposed to be ready when He comes from the wedding and knocks, that we open immediately. That's about our opportunity for a wedding feast that begins at that time, and if we aren't watching, we won't be ready, basically. That's uh, the angels came to shepherds that were watching their sheep, and we can be watching for sheep and others who need to understand as well. We can fulfill that role model, because it says in Matthew 22, verse 2 and 3, the king makes a marriage for his son and sends his servants to bid people to the wedding feast. Well, we've explained this somewhat before, but bottom line is that we've seen now the earthquake not only as the trumpet call in Revelation 1, great voices of a trumpet, but also the knock, and it's encoded in another way too. First of all, I'm going to say that that earthquake is stated plainly in Revelation 8, verse 5, where it says there are lightnings, voices, thunderings, and an earthquake. And the seven angels with the seven trumpets prepare to sound, and the first angel sounds, and it says a third of the trees and all the green grass burned up. Well, I believe that the grass represents the economy. For as the flower of the grass, so shall the rich man fade. Rich men are happy in their possessions and their money, but I don't think they're dead. When the rich men fade, I think they're no longer rich. And so bottom line, after that earthquake, the economy will crash. I think at a Feast of Trumpets, because we're talking about the trumpets in Revelation 8, verses 6, 7, and onward. Well, 2 chapters later, it says that a mighty angel comes down and cries mightily as a lion roars, and the seven angels and the seven thunders utter their voices. Okay, so Revelation 8 is seven trumpets. Revelation 10 is seven thunders. And it's after a lion roars. Well, what is that about? I'm suggesting to you that it has, again, that same meaning of earthquake, just as we saw before the seven trumpets. The seven thunders follow the lion's roar. Well, it says the Lord will roar from Jerusalem, the heavens and earth will shake. So yes, it links earthquake to seven thunders. And the seven thunders, we might wonder, what are those? Well, I believe they are the seven horn events from Daniel 8. Because of 1 Samuel 2, verse 10. It says, the Lord will thunder from heaven and exalt the horn of his anointed. And he will anoint those geopolitical powers from Revelation 8th chapter, where we see a ram, a pushy ram, pushing north, south, and west. This is Islam, pushing into Russia, pushing into Africa, pushing into Europe and Canada and America, really. So yeah, pushy. But a goat comes flying from the west and smacks this ram and stomps on it, breaks its horns, which are said to be the kings of Media and Persia. Medes and Persians are those areas are Iraq and Iran. And we've already done Iraq. This is not rocket science. We will be going to war against Iran. I would bet every dollar I have. And so we just need to understand it and share it with others so they can be ready too. Because it says in Zechariah 14 that the nations will be gathered against Jerusalem to battle. Well, it's the Muslims that hate the Jews, and they're going to drive them out and take half the city captive, houses rifled, women ravished, and then the Lord will roar from Jerusalem and get the Muslims out. God has several problems, but I think he's going to only act once with the earthquake. He's going to let the Muslims get rid of the Jews who have no interest in their spiritual heritage. They're just there for free land. And the Orthodox Jews hate Christians. They have gay parades in Tel Aviv. All that is going to be gone after God uses the Muslims to drive out the Jews. And then he's going to roar from Jerusalem and chase the Muslims out, so that it's really his city. Jerusalem is actually all of Israel. It says is his land. It's the land of the covenant. He gave it to Abraham for his seed, and he said. And Paul says, if you're Christ, you're Abraham's seed. So when the beast, New World Order, comes, and you can't buy or sell or hide, worship, surveillance everywhere, control, you can't. Unless you have the number 666, which has the threat of God. God says, if any man worship the beast, the same will drink of the wine of the wrath of God. I don't want that. I don't want to be marked. He says, we're not to be marked. So doing it, and I think this shot is a precursor for it. We don't need to be going along to get along with a false and phony system, and it will be seen, I believe, confident in the coming year that those who got the shot have made a bad mistake for their own personal health and maybe destiny. So need to repent and seek God. But now I'm covering for you how this lion's roar, when the Lion of Judah, it says in Revelation 5:5, roars, the heavens and earth will shake in the day of the Lord. That's Joel 3:16, context, day of the Lord. So we go back to Revelation 6, and we also see a lion's roar there. When the scroll has the seven seals, the first seal is open, John hears thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." Well, you have to look at verse 3 to know that the second seal is the second beast is a sorry. The thunder is linked to the roar of the lion, and it's the first beast in Revelation 4:7. It names the other beasts as well, but thunder is in John 12 when Christ says, "Father, glorify your name." The people thought it thundered, and that white horse was a message of truth for the end time. And I think that the thunder is linked to the roar of the lion. That's what initiates Revelation 6. Okay, so when the lion roars, it starts the trumpets in Revelation 8, starts the thunders in Revelation 10, and it starts the seals in Revelation 6, all concurrently. They're not. It's not 7, 7, 7 later. It's all concurrent. But the Revelation 8 is about plagues that fall on those who aren't sealed. Or helping people to move in the right direction. Revelation 10 is about geopolitical events, nations and their movements with the ram and goat. The U.S. versus Iran is what's coming. And then when Iran is conquered, the U.S. becomes great, but that horn breaks and four more spring up. I believe that's New World Order as different nations, lion, bear, leopard, and dragon, which represents the EU with the papacy, are all prominent in the end time. So that's just a broad look, really, at the first 10 chapters, so to speak. A superficial look. I don't intend to delineate everything that happens under each of the trumpets and so on, but we can get an understanding of it, and the thunders bring us to Revelation 10, where there's an interesting account with John, who is told to eat a little book, the book of Daniel, because of the same imagery in Revelation 10 with the man in linen who stands with 1 foot on the land, 1 foot on the sea, the angel does. And in Daniel 12, there's a man in linen with 1 foot standing, and also swearing. Swearing is making a covenant. The Hebrew word is Shabbat, sevens himself. Well, in covenants we're linked to sevens. So I believe that's our deal or our agreement with Christ to become his bride or bridegroom. The covenants were linked to sevens, and just like when Abraham made a covenant with Abimelech, he gave him 7 ewe lambs. When God made a covenant with Abraham, he promised him 7 times the land. When God made a covenant with Israel, he gave them 7 annual holy days. We have to get, but he tells us to have our lamps burning in the wedding parable. See, it was God in Genesis 15th chapter, verse 17, as a burning lamp. God went between the pieces of the sacrifice. He was proactive. He wanted the covenant with Abraham, and he had the burning lamp. But in the wedding parable of Luke 12, he tells us to have our lamps burning. In other words, he wants us proactive. God doesn't just want a vegetable like at Sinai. People say, yeah, we'll do it, whatever. He wants us to study and understand it and be proactive in seeking the covenant so that we can know what he wants from us. And so that's how I see it. We make the covenant when he knocks in Luke 12. The knock is the earthquake, because that's how the ancient church of Laodicea ended, in an earthquake. So the knock is the signal for us to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread at that time. Unleavened bread comes at Passover, and that's the time of judgment for Israel. Okay, it was in Egypt. It was for time for Christ. It was when Passover was when Titus came in 70 A.D., and it will be again when the Islam takes the city. And it will be a month later at second Passover, as the days of Noah. The flood came with Passover timing, but in the second spring month. It's 9/11 timing. We all know 9/11, big deal, but this is Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11, a provision for Passover a month later. One of the provisions is for a long journey. If Israelites took a long trip and couldn't get back in time for spring, they keep it a second month, the second month, because we're not excused from judgment, and that's what Passover was about. And so, in this case, the long journey is about Messiah, Christ, who went to heaven. He took the long journey, but his return in the form of judgment, like God came to Egypt invisibly, as a thief, he took Egypt's slaves. Christ will come invisibly also with the earthquake, and when he knocks, we've got to open for a Feast of Unleavened Bread at second Passover, a month later from when we see Muslims take the city. That will be the confirmatory sign for us. And we can wake up with and give the message, time of judgment is coming, the bridegroom's coming, and I'm confident this will be 2023, because it's after the sabbatical year of next year, 2022. The Jews keep that as a sabbatical year. They appealed for money to plant fruit trees because this year, because they can't plant next year. It's a sabbatical year. Well, the last week of years, 7, will fit a week, and it begins after the Sabbath or after the sabbatical year. And this is in sync also with historic dates for Seventh-day Adventists. The 77s of Daniel 9, verse 24 and 25, began with a decree in 457 BC to 34 AD. Those were sabbatical years. And if you follow it through 777 to our time, 2015 was a sabbatical year when we had lots of signs. But one of those signs, woe to them with child, no of them to give suck. The end times could not begin the next year because women who were pregnant, they're nursing, they need warning. And there was an 8-year warning that Joseph gave to Pharaoh in Egypt. There's going to be 7 good years and then 7 of famine. We have an 8-year warning too. From 2015, all of those signs are warning us about 2023. And as a confirmatory, we can see that there'll be big events and maybe lots of deaths next year, I believe, from shots that people should not have taken for the healthcare crisis that we're in. So all of this is a quick look from that we must prophesy again in Revelation 10, verse 11. And when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, you can do that. And I'm confident, if we are watching, God's going to give us power in Revelation 11:3. His side, his 2 witnesses, Old and New Testament, lived in our lives. It says they have the power to shut the heavens and turn water to blood. Shutting the heavens is what Elijah did. Water to blood is what Moses did. We can have that kind of power for the trumpet plagues, the first 4 trumpets of Revelation 8, before the woes come. Okay, and the woes come with the beast power when the beast also gets 42 months, which is same time. 3.5 years is 1,260 days in Revelation 11:3, but the beast gets power for 42 months in Revelation 13:5, after the deadly wound heals. The deadly wound was the Protestant Reformation and Napoleon taking the Pope prisoner. Well, all of this is, I brought you halfway through Revelation right now, and we will discuss the second half in the second. We're running out of time for this first 25 minutes. Stay tuned, and we'll catch the rest of it. God bless you. Thank you so much.